And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown.
They said the age of heroes would never come again.
It has to.
So, last weekend was Comic-Con, and so of course, a whole flood of movie trailers, particularly superhero and science fiction movie trailers, get released over that weekend, and it's kind of a big frenzy for all the fanboys and fangirls. We shouldn't discriminate. So we got lots of hype with all the new sneak peeks of different movies that are coming out in the near future. And there's honestly so many that I'd say it's kind of pointless to try and address every single one in detail and go through them one by one. But there were a few actually rather noteworthy elements of a few that I did want to touch upon. But just in general, I mean, if you just stop and kind of think back to even just not even that many years ago, but we've gone from maybe one or two superhero movies that would come out per year, where they were kind of the big blockbuster event. Now the movie cycle in the creation of the whole MCU and the DCU and, you know, the Star Trek universe and the Star Wars universe, you know, everything is expanded into a massive, you know, each one of these brands expanding into a whole cinematic universe, you know, mirroring the comic universes that were around for decades. And all of that also kind of being facilitated by things like Netflix and everything, where it's this whole kind of new element to Hollywood and the whole movie making industry. You know, you can make shows that kind of piggyback on the movies and expand the universe and do, you know, help create origin stories, and we're seeing more and more of that. And so there's just so much material that is coming out now. You know, you almost have to just kind of comment on it, you know, in aggregate, because it's just, you know, it's a phenomenon now. And, you know, you don't want to get caught up in the weeds, over analyzing things, and getting too fixated on one element or another. But what I think is just really significant with so many, whether it's Marvel or DC or whatever, with all these shows and movies, is this constant recurring thing of, you know, it's about the team of superheroes. We've had a lot of these individual stories and, you know, various takes on origins and stories. So now we're entering into the era of the teams, with, you know, whether it's the Avengers or the Defenders or the Justice League, Guardians of the Galaxy. It's all about having, you know, teams of superheroes battling, what is almost inevitably some sort of demiurge villain, which in essence is really a depiction of actually the Pantheon idea. And man, it's all about mythology. And for those people who understand the whole Genesis 6 paradigm and what Greek and Roman mythology and all the mythologies, all the pantheons of gods, whether it's Egyptian or Babylonian or whatever, it all goes back to the same idea. They're all, basically occult interpretations of the antediluvian era before the flood, when there were the fallen angels, the sons of God, who came down and had children with the daughters of men. And those were the days of the Nephilim, the heroes of old, the men of renown. So I was pretty surprised in this Justice League movie trailer to hear, Diana. This is a depiction of the goddess Diana from mythology talking to Bruce Wayne and saying, and they're talking about the age of heroes. They said the age of heroes would never return. And, that has got to be one of the most blatant symbolic connections of what we're seeing here, where, especially with these DC characters, with the Justice League, not only do you have Diana, who is a depiction of a goddess as a superhero, you also have Aquaman, who's simply the god Neptune. I mean, he's even got a trident and everything. I've read that the Flash could be a representation of Hermes, with the winged feet. And I don't know who the cyborg guy is. Obviously, that's a representation of just transhumanism. And then Superman, of course, Superman is interesting because some say that he's actually a depiction of the god Apollo, which is really interesting when you think about this movie and the last movie, with Ben Affleck as Batman, and whereas Superman actually died at the end of the last movie and then is dead for the majority of this Justice League movie, but then at the end of the trailer you see, basically it's about him coming back at the end, but hopefully it's not too late, which totally alludes right back to all the occult mythology about the dead and risen god, all the Nimrod symbology. And I mean, it's pretty amazing when we think about what the Bible says in terms of the beast who once was, now is not, and once again will be, for a short time. And then they're going to be coming out with a show actually called Krypton, which is getting into all the legacy of Superman's family back on the planet Krypton. And it's just crazy because, a lot of people don't think of Superman as actually the most famous alien character in all of pop culture and science fiction, but really, I think he would have to be. I mean, he's an alien being, he's a godlike being, and we see those kinds of themes being openly explored more and more in the new material. But even on the Marvel side, of course, you have Thor in this movie, Thor Ragnarok, coming out, which, the villain again she's the goddess of death. So it's another demiurge type figure that's coming in from above and trying to destroy all worlds. I mean, just like in the Justice League movie, just like in all the other Avengers movies, just like in you name it. It's like every one of these superhero movies, it's some evil godlike being coming in to trying to take over the planet or destroy the planet. And so it's all about, we have to team up together, we have to unite. And it's this constant theme of all the heroes, all the Nephilim, all the transhumans, all the gods and demigods and whatever else, all uniting together, uniting as a united front against this threat. I mean, with the Avengers Infinity War movies, parts 1 and 2 that are supposed to be coming out in the next couple of years, it's the same story, it's the same theme. So if nothing else, I would hope that people could stop and just look at the massive amount of propaganda that is all echoing these same themes. And if you really stop and understand the origin of just where the whole concept of a hero comes from, if you understand that biblically in light of Genesis 6, and then you can therefore understand what all the ancient mythologies were really all about, with these beliefs in gods and demigods, that it should be pretty astounding that so many thousands of years later that humanity is just as obsessed with these kinds of themes and stories and ideas as we ever have been. Why in this day and age where supposedly we're so scientifically and technologically advanced and serious about exploring the solar system, and we're so grown up from our primitive early days, as a human species, why the obsession with superheroes? Why are the powers that be, who own the media, who own Hollywood, who own Netflix, who own every single one of these companies that puts out this material, why do we just see slightly different versions of the same basic themes and ideas again and again? You got Will Smith coming out with this movie called Bright later this year for Netflix. And it's a world where there's fairies and orcs and, all these different, more Nephilim again, all living together now. And there's some ancient evil that's threatening to come and destroy the world. And so, of course, it's all about magic and, using the magic to fight the evil. And, we are being primed for something. And please understand that when I'm talking about all this symbolism, I'm not saying that this means that, there's going to be literal giants returning to the earth or superhero type people running around in spandex outfits and things like that. Maybe there will be, I don't know. But I think what's most important to understand is that these are just another vehicle to teach concepts, to teach, first of all, perverted Luciferian morality, as mythology has always been used, because the gods were always imperfect beings. And in one of the trailers I saw, Stanley actually talks about that, with superheroes being, imperfect, but they can still choose to do good. This is Luciferian ideology. Another interesting quote from the Justice League trailer was where they're all coming together to fight, and Superman's still dead at that point. And so Batman at one point actually refers to Superman as having been a beacon who made us see the best in ourselves and taught us to fight for ourselves.
Superman was a beacon to the world. He didn't just save people, he made them see the best parts of themselves.
It's just a blatantly Luciferian message where you're calling him a beacon, this beacon of the human spirit. And that's the whole point, is that the whole superhero genre, the whole superhero modern mythology is all about, in all these different ways, pushing the idea of gaining power, of humanity, defending ourselves, being our own saviors, right? Achieving our own godhood, defending our own world from an outside threat. That outside threat which almost inevitably is represented by some tyrannical, malevolent, despotic would-be ruler, which is precisely how Gnosticism and atheism and Luciferianism and the New Age all view the biblical God. It's all about demonizing God and deifying ourselves. So hopefully you see it. Hopefully it's just getting to the point where you can't deny how prevalent this programming is. My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all they chose. And the Lord said, The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown.
They said the age of heroes would never come again.
It has to.